panel is it's a comparative panel, comparative legal and medical panel, where we're going to talk about issues that arise in the United States, in Canada, and Mexico. And the format is going to be, I'm going to read a series of questions, and then I'm going to have, you okay? I'm going to have particular panelists respond to those questions. So first I want to start off, we're going to start off with a legal discussion. And the questions that we're going to talk about are: what is the legal status of surrogacy in your country, within its various states or provinces? How explicit, stable, and predictable is this legal framework? What safeguards are taken to assure the rights of the carrier? Contracts, legal representation, escrow accounts, for instance. How are parental rights established for United States same-sex couples and singles, both biological and non-biological? Is it established as laws, court precedents, or other regulations? And in particular, what issues are there for establishing U.S. citizenship for children born to Canadian and Mexican surrogates? And finally, how long do the IPs need to stay at the place of birth before they return home? And we're going to start off with representative from the United States, Diane Hinson.
So the thing to know about the United States is there is no federal surrogacy law. It's state by state. And typically, the law of the state where the baby is born is going to apply. And so you need to know what that law is. A quick way to do that is to go to surrogacymap.com. It's something that we've put together. There's actually one specifically, but you click through, you get the good news are we have green light states, yellow light states, and red light states. The good news is that there are now more green light states than ever before. And that means that surrogacy is doable there. You can have your parentage rights protected, be declared the parent, birth certificate, and that ultimately is what's important. But it's also important to stay away from what we call the red light states. And the really most important thing is to work with a lawyer, a surrogacy lawyer, an experienced surrogacy lawyer, and not try to do it on your own. Right now, the red light states are actually the same for gay and straight married couple, which I think is really awesome. That's post the Supreme Court decision last year. So the second question is what safeguards are taken to assure that the rights of the surrogates are safeguarded. And some states have specific statutes. That's actually a minority of states. But in the rest of them, there are guidelines that are applicable either through the medical community or through the legal community, like the American Academy of Assisted Reproductive Technology Attorneys that I belong to. So if you work with the right clinic, the right attorney, then you can be sure that she's protected as well. And this actually protects you, because courts have been known to throw out your surrogacy contract, for example, if your surrogate did not have independent legal representation. So by protecting her, you're protecting yourself in case anything should ever go wrong. So it's really important to do that. How are your parental rights established? Well, and that's basically a petition for parentage is filed. We really like to do it in the second trimester because babies come early. And so your surrogacy attorney will file that to ask the court to issue an order declaring you as the legal parent to terminate any putative rights of your surrogate and her spouse. And then there'll be an order ordering vital records in that jurisdiction to issue a birth certificate immediately upon birth that names you as the parent if you're single, parent and parent if you're a couple, and immediately upon birth, which is really an awesome thing. But you have to be in the right state for that to happen. How long do you need to stay in that state? Well, if it turns out to be a state where it takes a long time to get the birth certificate, there's really no reason why you need to stay there to get that birth certificate. You can go back home, and then there's actually an online service now, and you'll be able to get the birth certificate later. You're not like our international couples where you need that to get your passport and then travel. So that's something that, again, your surrogacy agency, you should have a case manager who helps you facilitate all this all the way through. That's one of the things that you hopefully will get assistance to do. Obviously, traveling will depend on how the baby is and what means you're using, and that's something the doctors can talk about. The last issue is for establishing U.S. citizenship, but any baby that's born in this country is automatically a U.S. citizenship. We have some presidential candidates, Donald Trump, who are talking about changing that, but right now, and hopefully for all ever to come, right now, any baby who's born in this country is automatically a U.S. citizen. So that's something that really is a non-issue. So I think I've covered that. And as I said, it's really a state-by-state issue, but the important thing is to be matched, particularly if you come from New York. New York is one of our red light states right now. There is legislation that's pending, but again, it'll be where your surrogate is so that we can establish the parentage rights of both the biological and the non-biological father and have you both declared to be the legal parental rights. Your birth certificate will look like anybody else's birth certificate, except it will say parent and parent.
Thank you. Now we're going to hear from Cindy Wasser, who's going to tell us, answer these questions from a Canadian perspective. Cindy.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. The Canadian situation is similar and different. We have federal legislation, and the one act that we have states that surrogacy and donation are perfectly legal. What we can't do is pay these women to help us, but we may reimburse them for their expenses. The legislation doesn't define what those expenses are, so when we draft contracts with the parents and their donors or the parents and their surrogates, we list many of the types of expenses that the surrogate or donor will be reimbursed. And the contracts are reviewed by judges as well as government lawyers in some provinces where you do the parentage application, and there's never been a problem with the expenses that we list. So we're able to do it quite easily. One difference is that the parentage application is only done post-birth in Canada. But likewise to here, it is dependent on each province in Canada how it's done procedurally, not whether it's legal, because it's legal everywhere. We are also an incredibly tolerant nation. We believe in the right to parent, and we believe in all human rights and equality. So you could become a parent whether you're single or in a relationship, and in some provinces, even if you don't have a genetic link, you can become a parent. And the other things we do when we apply for parentage is let the judge know through your affidavit material that your carrier had independent legal advice from a fertility lawyer, so we make sure that she and the donor get good representation. We also make sure that you are able to say in the affidavits that you only paid her expenses to comply with the law. Once you get the application for parentage in and you get declared the only parents, you can apply for a birth certificate from the province where the baby is born. And for example, if you hop up to Ontario, the judge will order you to be the only parents, not the surrogate. You can get online and file the application. You should have a birth certificate after the judge's order is made within a week. And then you can apply for a Canadian passport, a rush order, 24 to 48 hours, and come home with baby. Many people can't afford to spend several weeks away from home. So the nice thing about America and Canada is that we travel quite freely with each other. Your surrogate can sign a notarized letter giving you permission to travel with what is technically still her legal baby. So you can come home with baby and we can complete the parentage application in your absence with amazing technology that we have. And If you need to come back only at some point to do passport information, you can come back, do that, and then go back again. With respect to establishing your American citizenship afterwards, we've never had a problem of Americans coming home with a Canadian baby and not getting citizenship. But because I'm very cautious, I always want to speak to a foreigner's native lawyer, so I always recommend you, when speaking with me, just get an immigration lawyer, or I will connect you to somebody to make sure you know at the very beginning what you will have to do. Most people can do it on their own. They don't actually need to have a lawyer to do the immigration part here, but it's cautious to speak to someone. I think I've covered most of it. There is, in one of the provinces where foreigners come to have babies, frequently in Alberta, there must be a genetic link to at least one of the parents. But in Ontario, you don't even need that. And in BC, you also do not need a genetic link. It's only in Alberta where you will need it. And I think that's it for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Art. We're going to hear for 5 minutes from Sergio Gomez to answer these questions from a Mexican perspective. Sergio?
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here in this great event. Mexico is a bit more limited in surrogacy in terms of legal access to the product. In Mexico is only legal. Surrogacy is only legal in the state of Tabasco for heterosexual couples and single parents, regardless of their gender. There must be a biological link in order to carry out the surrogacy program in Mexico. The legislation has been on and it's been viable since 1998. Only state in Mexico where surrogacy can be carried out legally, but it's only available for heterosexual couples. That's the state of Sinaloa. In the case of Tabasco, which is a southern region in Mexico, very hardly humid, the legislation, like I said, has been on since 1998, and it's similar to the California model. Intended parents will travel to Tabasco to Clark County to sign the surrogate mother agreement. The surrogate mother agreement is where all the rights and obligations for both intended parents and the surrogate mother are stated. This legal contract will safeguard in legal terms. What I mean is that with your contract, you will be able to register your kid, or to register your baby after the birth. As a Mexican citizen, you can choose whoever is born within the Mexican territory can be a Mexican citizen. In the case of foreigners coming to Mexico for surrogacy purposes, they have two options. They can become Mexicans. They can hold both nationalities, whether they're Canadians or Americans or anyone, or any citizen from around the world. In Tabasco, you're expected to be in Tabasco after the birth for around 10 days, 2 weeks pretty much, because you have to sort out all the legal paperwork, namely the birth certificate, the Mexican birth certificate, whether the Mexican passport, if you want to travel right away to Canada or the US, or you can apply for a US passport or Canadian passport. It will take you around 4 to 6 weeks. However, the US Embassy will request you a DNA test to verify that there's actually a biological link between the intended parents and the baby. You have to go to your embassy and you will get a DNA kit so that you can swab your mouth and swab your baby's mouth, and you can send these samples to the US Embassy, and they will send it to an authorized laboratory in the US to be analyzed. The results can take around 10 days as well. So you're expected to be in Mexico around 4 to 6 weeks. However, if you manage to sort out all your paperwork in a record time, let's say 2 weeks, he will have to stay in Mexico for around 4 weeks. This may vary because the baby cannot get in the plane and newborn cannot get in the plane until he is completely discharged. And this is due because of the interview of the baby. Some on the plane they won't let you get on the plane until the baby is discharged and the baby has been the interview has matured. How are parental rights established for the US same-sex couples and singles, both biological and non-biological facts? This establishes law, courts, residence, or other regulations. Like I said, the Article 9, the Civil Code of Tabasco, namely the Article 92, has extensive information about surrogacy and how surrogacy has been legal since 1998 in Mexico. How long do the ITs need to stay at the place of the birth before they can return home? I say 4 to 6 weeks. This is the average time. You can, like I said, you can go back to the US or to Canada with a Mexican passport if you want to have both nationalities. This is something available. And like I said, we have something known as unosoli. People who are born in Mexico, they are granted with the US, with the Mexican citizenship.